Hey guys, welcome back to WP Development's YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about 10 speeds in general, just kind of a general overview of the things that we are designing, developing, looking at, talking with some of the key engineers in the aftermarket world of failure analysis on not just stock, but aftermarket. Even with the emissions on tuning and stuff like that, it's really going to put a strain on these 10 speeds. And the 10 speeds so far are in two of the major brands that we're all known for, is Ford and Chevy. So the Ford and Chevy platform worked together to design a 10-speed transmission as a joint effort. Now the Chevy, you would see it say Allison on it, right? It's not technically an Allison. It wasn't designed in Allison's facility, but Allison gave them the stamp of approval. It was technically a partnership between Ford and Chevy that designed the 10-speed. And they've been doing this partnership for a little bit. Even in the 8-speed world, you can kind of see a resemblance in both of those units, whether it be the solenoids having a Ford part number and a GM transmission, or some shared ideas that they did in both styles. So it's very similar in gas and diesel. The big question I get is, why did these manufacturers go to a 10-speed? It all has to do with the futuristic goals of low RPM and the best fuel economy, right? So they're held up to a standard at the OE manufacturers, and they realized if we could keep this RPM window at a really low RPM, say it's 1200 to 1800 RPMs, and they just bounce back and forth between those two figures, we would have a really good fuel mileage. So when you're cruising down the highway in 10th gear and you're at 1200 RPMs, your fuel consumption is a lot less. So that was their main goal. Some of the differences in the Ford and the GM diesel side transmission, I get this asked all the time. Like, I thought they're the same. Can't you just put the Ford transmission parts in my Chevy transmission? The big fuss that we're seeing in the rebuilders world is in the GM side. GM cannot keep up with the failures. So that being said, we're seeing a ton of valve body problems. We are all working hard studying the unit itself and seeing how everything works and why it's failing. It's still kind of up in the air, I will say. We have invested a ton of time into R&D and looking and getting a list of all the failures, but trying to figure out why it's side loading a PR valve, the way the fluid runs into that valve, or is it the valve material, something in that nature. It takes a lot of time and testing, and even your new fixes that are out there aren't available to you, but they are in testing, and we got to get thousands of miles on that kind of thing before we can release it to you guys, so we know it's a for sure fix. The GM side, some of the common failures that we're seeing on the GM diesel side are valve body failures, like I mentioned. Some of these are a direct correlation with aftermarket valve body designs that people are doing, and they are upping the pressure way too much. In the past, I would say it's been a narrative to have every transmission skyjack the line pressure. Unfortunately, that is not the key. There are other things that are more important than having line pressure, raised 25% or 10% or 15%. We have tested that theory ourselves at really high horsepower levels, and in the transmission world overall, and just general, we've proved that theory. We have yet to have a high performance transmission holding 4,000, 3,000 horsepower over 300 pounds of line pressure. So in the factory form, it's possible to see these things at 300 pounds of line pressure. In the aftermarket form, some people are are making the blow off, which is a pressure relief, go to 425. So you can only imagine, here is a Ford valve body. It's not the same, but it is similar. You could imagine what 425 pounds of line pressure in one of these channels would do, and it does. It absolutely blows the channel out. Usually happens down in the bottom section. It's an instant failure. There's no warning sign saying, hey, this is getting ready to fail. It's, I'm driving down the road, shifting through gears, and all of a sudden, bam, it just quit. That is huge in the Chevy stuff. Ford I have not seen it yet. I'm not saying it's impossible. In the video here, we actually have a billet 10R 140 valve body. This was a test piece that basically made the 10R 140 valve body today. It kind of shows you that, you know, we have the 6 solenoids across the top. Those are your shift solenoids. Those are what they call a direct acting solenoid, and this solenoid is pretty much shared between Ford and Chevy. So as they aren't direct replicas in the diesel side, they do serve the same purpose. They have very similar ohm resistance to each other, and they do the same functions. Okay, so they are what they call a direct acting solenoid. So what that means is this solenoid, in order to shift, has a little needle that comes out when it sees 12 volts, and it physically strokes a valve. Now, some of you are complaining in the Ford and the Chevy platforms that you have a flare shift, or you have a shift bind, or it slams when it's cold, or whatever it may be, and that is a direct cause of these shift valves in here. The control valves are either sticky, or the one that was trying to come on was sticky and the other one was not, so that would cause a shift flare. One that doesn't want to come off right away but the other one does would cause your shift binds, and that can happen at low RPM, low throttle angle, or it could happen at only 50% or above. So those things are what we really have to concentrate on in these, and they're very, very finicky. So if I get one speck of aluminum shaving in this valve, there's a good chance that it's probably going to get caught up and it's going to get sticky. That brings me to my next point. Ford versus Chevy in the diesel. The Ford, however, first time in my knowledge and history, they do not have a fail-safe. So say any other trans that you are used to, you can unplug the big plug-in on your transmission, start your car, and it will have a fail-safe gear, right? That gear is, if something goes wrong, I want to get off the side of the road, right? So you should have reverse, you should still have park, you should still have drive. However, Ford decided that they would be no fail-safe. I don't really agree with that. If you have an electronical problem and you're on the interstate, you will literally lose forward movement. So you can't operate it as a mechanical transmission. To me, that's a safety hazard, but the GM added a fail-safe solenoid. So it will redirect to have basically a forward gear and a reverse gear. So it doesn't need 12 volts, it doesn't need anything hooked up, it will still move forward and backwards, which is a very good addition to a valve body, in my opinion. The Ford versus GM longevity-wise, definitely the 10L1000 being more problematic that we're seeing, and the hard part area. So what we would consider a trash can is getting eaten alive by the clutch disc themselves, and it's making shelves in there and holding the clutch on. It's just not a very good design. We will have more videos, in-depth videos of each model, Ford and Chevy, and then we'll also do the diesel and the gas version. I wanted to touch base a little bit on the gas version. The Ford and GM gas version wise, they, however, are pretty much identical. The cases, the external casing of them are not identical, but the internal wise, they are pretty much Ford part numbers on the Chevy parts. They use the same solenoids. They do have a different valve body design, just very similar as I explained to the Ford versus GM and the diesel side. GM also put a fail-safe valve in there that if it loses voltage, you can get on and off the road. However, Ford decided not to. Again, don't ask me why. That's just the way it is. A big thing that we're seeing that I feel like is pretty common in the industry with all the newer stuff is valve body related. So as to where we used to be able to do a lot of the modifications in the valve body by switching spring rates, drilling holes bigger, whatever that may be, now is all controlled by the tuning, right? So as we can fix some of the common issues that are keeping the valves sticking, lockup feel we can have a little control over, but tuning is going to be the biggest thing to basically fix a lot of the issues that you would feel after you would upgrade your valve body. So we do have a 10R140 platform and a 10R80 platform and a 10L8090 platform valve body setup. However, since the cores are very hard to get on the 10L1000 or new valve bodies, we do not currently offer that stuff to the public. If you do have any questions, obviously you can reach out to us on the tech or the sales email. I had mentioned here some of the common problems in the 10R and the 10L. I would say the majority of the things, in your 2022 to current Ford stuff, I get a lot of emails and questions about shift flares when it's cold or at partial throttle. Downshifts are a little aggressive, and that's going to come from what we were talking about before with debris in the fluid, slowing down some of these shift valves. Maybe things aren't quite as flat as they needed to be. There's a lot of things that it can be in there. A lot of times we can sell you a valve body, one of our updated valve bodies that does have some of the fixes for valve stiction. We've recently came across that and added that to all of our platforms. It's been really great. The other thing is tuning. The TCM is separated on GM and Ford both. I'm not real keen on the Chevy side of things. On the TCM tuning side, that's something you would probably have to do some looking into. But on the Ford side, we do have a tuner that we have worked with and got TCM tuning that will basically have a better rate gain on getting the clutches clamped on, the shift feel being, very, very good. And then, so that package deal will be landing on the website pretty soon for a valve body tuning fix for your Ford stuff. Like I said, the 10L stuff is very hard to get your hands on right now. I have kind of put that on the back burner until parts are available. I really hate to have orders come in and not be able to ship out anything for months on end. But that's definitely not what we're after here. The solenoid style we kind of went over here is a direct acting solenoid in there that manually strokes a valve, so there's fluid pressure on the other end, and then this solenoid itself has to energize and it pushes the valve the other way. That's how you get your next gear or that clutch to enable. There's actually 2 stages to that. We'll go more in depth on just looking deep into valve bodies, how they work, some of the things that we do here to fix that per model. So I don't want to kind of get this video going on too long. but we'll have the one for the Ford versus GM and the diesel, and then we'll have the Ford versus GM and the gas. That way we can break them down into 4 separate videos and kind of just let you concentrate on which style of truck and transmission you have. Strategy codes are a huge question I get all the time. Strategy codes are based off of the banding number on the solenoid. So when the factory goes through here, they have different banding numbers on each individual solenoid, and the ones that they choose and they put on the dyno, they're able to configure a solenoid strategy code. So that would tell it how fast it can come on, how fast it can come off, how strong it may be. So all of those things that they test, they have a software, an algorithm that will actually output a code, which is called the strategy code. So anytime you replace your transmission or your valve body, they always have you reinsert a strategy code. The Chevys call it a PUN code. It's a QR code that you would scan with we use we use an app called Scanned It. It's a free app. If you guys don't have it, it's a very good tool to have if you're doing some of these valve body swaps and stuff like that. It's a 2D scan, and you would scan it with your phone on the Scanned It app, and it will give you basically your strategy number. That strategy code is going to help with basically getting that thing to learn a lot faster. It knows what solenoid is in what position and what banding code that would have. So it knows how much juice that thing should take, how fast it will be, how strong it is. So it's kind of an important code. We're playing a little bit around with our own stuff on what happens if we don't put the strategy code in. Right now, we recommend it. It doesn't seem to be affecting things not putting it in there. I've had some customers try it before on a test drive on install just to make sure everything seemed to be fine. If they had a problem that was arising with shift strategies or something like that, we would try updating the strategy code, but sometimes a lot of you installers don't really have, 4Scan or dealer OE equipment to be able to scan these things in there and load it into the ECM, TCM area. So we've been playing a little bit around with not putting strategy codes in. So far, I think it's going really well. From what I'm on my feedback that I'm gaining from it, even in our trucks personally, we have tried it, had really good success. So that is hopefully the way of the future on that. Do I think the 10-speed's here to stay? Absolutely. I don't think that we are ever going backwards from the 10-speed. I really don't. I don't know if they'll add more gears later down the road. I mean, I think they pretty much have like their mile-per-hour cap on the interstates, so they know they don't need any more, say, top-end speed, for doing a 13-speed or a 15-speed, in the future. Is that possible? I guess, but I really think that the 10-speed will probably be here for a long time. Dodge-wise, obviously, if you guys are Dodge fans like we are, they did release that the ZF 8-speed is in the Dodge for sure. They just opened up ordering. I'm not sure when those will hit the dealerships, but that is definitely on our radar. We are trying to get one to start doing some R&D and starting to feel out some of the common failures on the 8-speed stuff. The future of the 10-speed, I mean, we have stuff in the gasser world, Coyote stuff. We personally have 2 F-150s, 4-wheel drive, twin turbo trucks. My personal one I should be piloting this year with a big sponsor of Raybestos. We're going to start working on clutch data, strain gauges. I mean, we're going all out on the data logging, and we are going to try to capture every minute, second, millisecond of this transmission and really dial this thing in, possibly even going off of A custom-made TCM is my envision, to be able to start doing some maybe 10-speed swapping into other platforms. So if you have, a hot rod that you want to drag and drive, or you just have a hot rod cruiser that you want 10 speeds in, it's going to be very possible to basically have a swap kit. You can put it behind your snapper mower. It's going to be, I think, the way of the future. It's a huge market for us, for everybody. They shift so amazing. I drive one every day. We pull our 48-foot race trailer with our unit to the races. I absolutely love it. I love the way it gets out of the hole. I love the way it shifts. It's nice, crisp, and clean with our valve body upgrade and some tuning. It's very hard to beat. Longevity wise, I think it's going to be good. All of the units that we've had out there have been going strong, but obviously this is kind of a new platform, so we don't have them out there with 300,000 miles. I hope very soon we do, but it's kind of, everybody is in the learning process of all of this. We have not taken it kindly. I take valve bodies home, have one on my kitchen table, matter of fact, and I sit there and study fluid flow. I study what went wrong on some of the valving in there. I study the type of solenoids that each valve body has. I mean, I go through and basically have to memorize every hole in the separator plate, every channel that is in there. Another thing I put up here is the separator plate. As you can tell, it's black. That is because it is a factory bonded separator plate. So there is gasket material. There are little screens here that feed the clutch control bores. Anything that basically is going to be direct acting on a solenoid itself, they do try to screen some of the material out of it. However, the pieces that are giving us the fusses are smaller than what the screen is, so that's kind of some of the things on our radar to basically get some better filtration on these things. So it doesn't matter if you're at 1,000 horsepower or you're at factory level, they're making material. So there is always, I have not had a sample of fluid come out of any of these 10 speeds that has been absolutely crystal clean. I have always seen almost like a glittery, if you circle your finger in it, you can see the glitter. So that's one of my big concerns. That's probably what we're seeing with a lot of the shift malfunctions that you guys are having. That's not throwing a code, but it's very annoying. You bought a brand new truck trying to have the nice new feel, and you have a transmission that doesn't want to shift exactly right. So that's what we're doing here at WP Developments. We are definitely a long ways from being done on studying how everything works. Just one channel itself could take us a week, to actually memorize and perfect. And that's kind of where I think a lot of people are in the industry right now, is getting familiar with the failures. If you've had a failure, please chime in. Tell us what you've done, even if it was a warranty job. Hopefully they told you what they changed, whether it was just the valve body. They were able to fix your condition with dropping the fluid and putting a filter and new fluid in and putting the pan back on. We'd love to hear it. I always have a book of common problems, common fixes. Whether I write it down or I keep it in my head, is kind of up in the air. But we love to hear about failures. Like we like to see pictures. We like to hear about your common failures and fixes. Or if you have one that's doing something and you need some help, obviously reach out to us and we can try to diag some stuff through the phone. We love talking to you guys. WP, we are definitely full board. This is our main concentration: gas, diesel, 10 speeds. That's where we eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff right now. Until Dodge comes out with their 8-speed. We're kind of in limbo on the Dodge thing. We obviously have the 68 RFE that we do day in, day out, have a really good recipe, really good success rate. You know, I would never say we're done with something, but we're really high up there on, we know every ounce and piece and crack and crevice of that thing, and now we're really concentrating our visions on the future for you guys and the newer stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to keep an eye out on the YouTube channel. We are going to be having an individual Ford diesel video. We'll have an individual GM diesel video. We'll have individual Ford gas, so your 10R80 stuff, and we'll have the GM 10L80, 10L90 stuff. So those are all things I kind of want to point towards, you know, what one you have, so you don't have to sit there and listen to me talk about a 10R140 and you got a 10R80. So we're kind of going to break that into 4 different sections. We'll have individual videos for you guys on what we're really concentrating on, some of the tips and tricks that we're doing, and some of the products that we're offering that you guys probably didn't even know about. See you on the next one. Make sure you like and subscribe. Comment below on some of the things that you have had maybe go wrong with your 10-speed. We'd love to hear about it. Hats, I am wearing one. They're very cool. They're on the website for sale. Head over to the website. It's under the apparel tab. We should have more merch coming onto the website. That's one of our main focuses for you guys to represent for us. And we absolutely love seeing people wearing our logo around and supporting our company. It's, you know, family-based company, and you guys doing that is feeding us, and we're helping you in return. Thank you, guys.